Game 3 is a challenging game. And it's a challenging game for a lot of reasons. First, the rules are a little bit complicated, and there's a lot of them. Next, there's a lot of questions here, 7 different questions. And one of the limitations that we normally expect there to be in a game is not present. On the one hand, though, it is a sequencing game. We have 7 weeks in which we have to schedule a destination, 1 destination each week, but we only have 4 destinations to go to, G, J, M, and T. So if there are 7 weeks and only 4 destinations, then we're going to have to repeat destinations. And there are a lot of different ways that you could repeat them. You could go, for example, to the same place 4 times and then go to each of the others just once. You could go to one destination 3 times, then another destination twice, and then each of the others only once, and so on and so on. We could do 3 doubles. The possibilities are actually kind of wide. So I wouldn't write that on the day of the test, I would just think through it. What I would write on the day of the test is a roster of the destinations that we have to schedule. And it does say that every destination is going to be scheduled at least once. So we know we're going to see a G, a J, an M, and a T in our list of 7. Then we have 3 wild cards to go in that list of 7 as well. We also are going to need some numbered spaces. So 7 numbered spaces, a list of 7 things that we know 4 of and we don't know the other 3 of. This would be our basic master diagram, to which we're going to add the rules. The first rule is that you can't go to Jamaica in week 4. So we can just put a little no J under week 4. The next rule is that it has to go to Trinidad in week 7. So we'll just put a T in week 7. The next rule says that Freedom has to go to Martinique twice, with at least 1 voyage to Guadeloupe during a week that's in between those 2 voyages. So that's a complicated rule. Let's break it down one piece at a time. The first thing it means is that we actually know one of our wild cards. We're going to have 2 M's and only 2 M's, which means that the other 2 wild cards are not going to be an M. But also, it has to go to G at least once in between the 2 M's. So we'll see an M, and then at some point later we'll see a G, and at some point later we'll see an M. The symbol there that I've drawn with the line in the middle of the letters, to me that means that you can stretch those letters out and you can squish those letters together. So there's room between the M's and the G and the M, but also we could squish it down to just have MGM. Now the next rule is one that we have to be careful with. Guadeloupe will be its destination in the week preceding any voyage it makes to Jamaica. So if it goes to Jamaica, the week before it'll have to go to Guadeloupe. But we want to be careful because that doesn't mean that if it goes to Guadeloupe, it has to go to J the next week. So anytime it goes to J, the week before has to be a G, but anytime it goes to G, well, this rule doesn't say anything about what happens if it goes to G. J could be after it or not. This rule does have an immediate effect on the game. And that is that we know that Freedom can't go to Jamaica in week 1 because there would be no room to put a G in front of week 1. So J can't be in 1 or 4. Now the final rule says that no destination will be scheduled for consecutive weeks. So what that means is we're never allowed to see 2 T's in a row, 2 M's in a row, 2 G's in a row, 2 J's in a row. Although we would never have been able to see 2 J's in a row anyway because of that last rule. You'd always have to separate them with a G. But in my shorthand, I'm just going to write, so my symbol for a duplication here is an X. So when it says no XX, that to me that means no duplications, nothing can be next to itself, which is going to have an immediate effect on the game. T won't be allowed to go 6th. So after you've gone through the basic rules and you've thought about them individually, you want to think about how they might go together. There's a couple of different ways to proceed here. You could write some sketches before you dove into the questions, split your board up into multiple limited options. Here, there's nothing in particular that calls out to me as something that we should split the sketch up over. Now, the decision to write multiple sketches at the beginning is a little bit of a personal preference issue. I'm going to run this game as though we decided not to split our sketches, as though we looked at this and thought, oh, this is pretty complicated, so I'm going to lean heavily on the if questions and on the solution questions to help me understand the game, and then use those if there are some difficult global questions afterwards. So this is our master diagram.